Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnu Paramahamsa, Parivrajacharya Asacharya Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Prem Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai, Gopikapadnath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai, Navadik Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Yamuna Maya Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Gaura Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai, Janitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 15, text 36. You 37? We did 36 yesterday, did we? Huh? Just continue? Okay. No worries. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Evam Tadeva Bhagavan Arvind. Someone want to help me with the meter? Evam Tadeva Bhagavan Arvindanava Svanam Vibudya Sadat Atikramam Arya Hridaya Nam Vibudya Sadatika Arya Hridaya Svanam Vibudya Sad Atikramam Arya Hridaya Tasmin Yaya Paramahamsa Mahamuninam Anveshaniya Charanau Chalayan Sahasri Evam Tadeva Bhagavan Aravindanaba Svanam Vibudya Satikramam Arya Hridaya Tasmin Yaya Paramahamsa Mahamunina Anveshaniya Charanau Chalayan Sahasri Evam Tadeva Bhagavan Aravindanaba Svanam Vibudya Satakrim Atikramam Arya Hridaya Nam Vibudya Satikriyam Tasmin Yaya Paramahamsa Mahamunina Anveshaniya Charanau Chalayan Sahasri. Vaishnavas. Evam Tadeva Bhagavan Anveshaniya Charanau Chalayan Sahasri. Evam Tadeva Bhagavan Evam tadeva bhagavan Yandanaba. Paramahamsa Mahamuninam. Shaniya Charanau Sarayan Sahasri. Tadeva Jaravan Ravindanaba. Vaishnavis, try. Evam tadeva bhagavan aravindanaba. Pranam vibudya sadikramam adyahidya. Tasmin yaya paramahamsa muramanina. Word for word. Evam, thus. Tada, tada eva. At that very moment. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Aravindanaba, with a lotus growing from his navel. Svanam, of his own servants. Vibhudya, learned about. Sat, to the great sages. Atikramam, the insult. Arya, of the righteous. Hridaya, the delight. Tasmin, there. Yayao, went. Paramahamsa, recluses. Mahamuninam, by the great sages. Anveshaniya, which are worthy to be sought. Charanau, the two lotus feet. Chalayan, walking. Sahasri, with the goddess of fortune. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. At that very moment, the Lord, who is called Padmanabha because of the lotus growing from his navel, and who was the delight of the righteous, learned about the insult offered by his own servants to the saints. Accompanied by his spouse, the goddess of fortune, he went to the spot on those very feet sought for by the recluses and great sages. Responsively, at that very moment, the Lord, who is called Padmanabha because of the lotus grown from his navel, and who is the delight of the righteous, learned about the insult offered by his own servants to the saints. Accompanied by his spouse, the goddess of fortune, he went to the spot on those very feet sought by the recluses and great sages. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord declares that his devotees cannot be vanquished at any time. The Lord could understand that the quarrel between the doormen and the sages was taking a different turn, and therefore he instantly came out of his place and went to the spot to stop further aggravation, so that his devotees, the doormen, might not be vanquished for good. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Oh my Lord, please do not let me obtain some ego or get some thinking that I am greater just because I'm sitting here. I'm simply presenting what has been written by Srila Prabhupada and presented by the acharyas and the devotees. Can you put yourself for one moment, as hard as it is, in the position of the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha? Of course, we have nothing really in our experience to make their situation relative to ours. However, let us try. They are doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, the spiritual world where there is no anxiety, where Lord Vishnu resides with his consorts. We've heard about the description of Vaikuntha, this entire chapter. We've been given an insight of what it's really like and what it is they are doorkeepers for. So these small sages, who are of course learned in the Vedas, great jnanis as they say, they know, they've reached some conclusions through knowing, jnana, and through that they have gone upwards into the spiritual world and they've tried to enter Vaikuntha. And it's explained they go through the first gate, second gate, third gate. And then they meet the doorkeepers, Jay and Vijay. And Jay and Vijay, they are servants of the Supreme Lord, Sri Vishnu, and they notice these small sages, babies essentially, say, no, you're not coming in here. This is for the eternal associates of the Lord. This caused some offense to the Kumaras. In their mind, Srila Viswanath Chakravarti says they're thinking, this is Vaikuntha, this is the spiritual realm. Why is there need of doorkeepers? Why do you need to protect Vaikuntha when there's no anxiety here? Lord Vishnu is here. Why do you need doorkeepers? And how can you actually tell us not to come in here? This caused some palpable offense to the Kumaras. But the doorkeepers, they were just doing their job. They always think of Sri Vishnu all the time. They're constantly enamored by him. There's some very nice stories of the doorkeepers and their pastimes with Lord Vishnu. Once Sri Lakshmi was massaging Lord Vishnu, who's lying down, and as she was massaging him, she looks at him and she asks very lovingly, "Who is your greatest devotee? Who is your greatest devotee?" She's massaging him nicely. She's wanting to know, she's wanting some relationship with the Lord. As we found out, the Lakshmis have beautiful Madhurya Ras with the Lord, which is quite divine. And Lord Vishnu understands this question. But he can also see in the corner, there's two people looking through the door to the other side to see this exchange. Jay and Vijay. And they're looking. What's he going to say? And the Lord understands this completely. He knows if he says, "Oh dear Lakshmi, you've surrendered everything for me. You massage me all the time. You're consistently thinking about me. You are my greatest devotee." He knows that the Jay and Vijay will think, "Oh no, we haven't done any nice things here." Clearly Lakshmis, they might feel a bit bad. Similarly, the Lord knows if he says Jay and Vijay, he's Shri, he will feel very, very much disturbed from that answer. So the Lord simply smiles. He smiles. And that beauty of that smile, that relief of that smile, Lord Lakshmi becomes very much content, very happy, very peaceful. And she goes on serving the Lord by massaging him. And the doorkeepers, hearing this and seeing this smile and seeing this exchange, get completely, in some stage, ecstatically bewildered, and they go back to their doors very happy, saying, "This is such a nice exchange." The doorkeepers are very intimate associates of the Lord. He always thinks of them. So in this stage, say that, for example, someone comes in here to one of the brahmacharis in this temple ashram and says, "You've offended me, I'm sending you back home to live with your family. Or if someone comes into a householder's home and say, you've offended someone, you shouldn't live here anymore, that's it, you're going. It causes at least some concern, if not a lot of concern. I've been here all this time, and this is my home. Of course, here in the Brahmachari ashram, I'm serving Sri Radha Gopinath every day. My entire schedule is around it. A grahastha, they've got their Ishtadev and their devotional service at home. Changing the situation is very difficult for that. That way we can have some relative understanding of what Jay and Vijay are going through. But they're in the spiritual world. They've been told that they will be sent down to this world. In the previous verse, it says that they will go down to the lowest birds. This is a very difficult position. And actually, it's said that although it's Vaikuntha and there is no fear, and of course in the previous verse it speaks about how they accepted the curse. They said bhuyat, like let it be, bhuyat, let it be. That's the benedictive form of it, let it be. We have Sri Krishna Chaitanya, he says, Bhavatad bhakti ahitaki twai. Bhavatad means let me have devotional service, birth after birth. He is bhuyat, let it be, this curse, let it be. However, there's one thing we are concerned about, there's one thing that is fearful for a devotee. This is some fear. Although it's Vaikuntha, there is some fear. And the one fear that the devotee has is to not be with Krishna, is to forget Krishna. So, this fear, what is this fear? What is fear? Like we consider this as an emotion, and we have this in our discourse, fear, I'm scared. What is it? I looked at the etymology of the words. In Old Norse, this word far is here, which means harm or distress. And in Germanic, which goes even further, gefar, which is danger. So we have this element of that there's going to be some disturbance. And the definition that's used nowadays is an unpleasant emotion caused by the threat of danger, pain or harm. So essentially in our yogic scientific terms, fear, if we consider that there's some distress or danger, we think that it's essentially the net present value of future loss of sense gratification or some suffering. And that being experienced now, and the expectation based off our own conditioning of what we've experienced so far in terms of suffering, our own samskaras. That's fear. That's the nature of fear, for us at least here in this material world. Oh, how many times can you recall of being fearful? Fear is not just some kind of impending danger to life or death situation. We have fear in many, many things. I don't know if many of you brahmacharis before entering the temple maybe feared the situation. What would they say? What will the family members say? What will society say? What if I go into the street and someone sees me, this robe? Or if we're chanting every day, do we fear, is this chanting actually helping us? Is this actually going to make me happy? This idea of sense gratification. So in this way, fear is quite prevalent in this material world. We're always bringing to the present at this current stage, right now, the expectation of future suffering. We're never really present. We're either really sad and repentant, or perhaps even disgraced by something we've done in the past, and we're always bringing in from the future the pains and sufferings that we think we might have, or the situations we might encounter. So that's what it's like in the material world. But we see here in the spiritual world, just previous to the Lord entering this situation to be the resolver of the great calamity which is about to occur, which is them being cursed forever down here, is that they have a sense of fear, the doorkeepers, that we will forget. We won't be with Lord Vishnu. we won't be able to remember him. This is our entire constitutional position. They understand what their position is with Sri Krishna, Sri Vishnu. They understand that it's in their self-interest, it's in their nature to be a servant of Krishna, of Lord Vishnu. They actually, and they, in the spiritual world, feel the complete bliss of being in that position. Because they are, of course, enlightened souls. They have attained the supreme destination for them. And so, when we consider that they are thinking of the fear of coming down here, we should try to understand that fear even deeper. What is causing that fear of being away from Krishna? What is at play here? What are the characteristics at play? If we start with the converse, right, of a situation when we speak about devotees of the Lord, one of the qualities of a devotee is fearlessness, right? They have fearlessness. We know, Srila Prabhupada says in the Srimad Bhagavatam introduction, he says, a Vaishnava is a fearless devotee of the Lord, and for the right cause he can take any step suitable for the purpose. He can do anything because he's completely attached to the Lord and he's completely dependent on the Lord. Even in little situations where there might be some kind of cause of immediate fear, the devotee is fearless. There's stories of Srila Prabhupada walking in America in the streets and the crazy big, mangy dogs coming out to try to attack the devotees, and the devotees trying to chase it away but being helpless in that state, and Prabhupada just getting the stick and going, "Hut!" And the dog's going, wheels its tail and runs away behind these big dogs. These little vignettes of Prabhupada showing fearlessness in those situations, but also generally speaking in the way that they carry their Krishna consciousness, in the way that they actually move forward with presenting Krishna consciousness to others. They're fearless. We know the example of Srila Sanatana Goswami and the touchstone, how he's thrown the touchstone to one side, because he's not worried about his maintenance. He's not worried about his maintenance. He knows that the holy name itself will maintain him. The Lord will maintain. That's an element of fearlessness. But where does that fearlessness, it's obviously coming from Krishna. Krishna is the source of that fearlessness. They know without Krishna, that will not be present. They don't think of their own accord, I have to be like this. That's a result of their connection with the Supreme. In the purport of Canto 1, Chapter 7, Text 22, Srila Prabhupada says, Krishna is almighty and is especially the cause of fearlessness for the devotees. A devotee of the Lord is always fearless because of the protection given by the Lord. In the next chapter, Prabhupada says, the Lord is the only shelter of fearlessness for the surrendered soul. Again in Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 18, Prabhupada says, in the material world there is always anxiety or fearfulness in the hearts of all living entities. But the Lord, being himself the supreme fearless, also awards the same quality of fearlessness to his pure devotees. So that's what we understand to be the quality of a devotee of the Lord. A pure devotee of the Lord is fearlessness. But we also consider that there's the circumstance where, for example, the residents of Vrindavan, the Vrajavasis, they're consistently in anxiety and fear for Krishna. They're always in fear of Krishna. I was just reading the pastimes of baby Krishna who kicked the cart for Shakatasura, and how that situation caused immense fear when they came back and this cart was broken and Lord Krishna was under this cart. How did it happen? Did the demigods curse this? What happened? Similarly, when the Lord took the life force out of Putana, the great demoness, and she fell down after expanding a form like mountains, and the Gopas came back from Mathura and saw Krishna on this great demon, and they said, where did this demon come from? What happened? Have we been cursed? Has she fallen from the sky? They're consistently in anxiety, but this is a supreme form of anxiety. This is the correct usage of fear, because every emotion is actually perfect in the supreme world. So similarly, this fear that the doorkeepers are experiencing, that's a display of pure fear, the real fear. There's a great verse, Srimad Bhagavatam, text 2, Canto 2, text 6, chapter 6, text 19. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be known as the supreme reservoir of all material opulences by the 1/4 of his energy, in which all living entities exist. Deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from anxieties of old age and disease exist in the kingdom of God, which is beyond the 3 higher planetary systems and beyond the material coverings. So from where the Kumaras have come from, which is the higher planetary systems, there is that fear. There's higher planetary systems where we know that there's great yogis and siddhas. But in Vaikuntha there's no such thing, because they're consistently and always with the Supreme Lord. So if we look at this verse and understand the position of what the doorkeepers are experiencing, this fear of forgetting Krishna, going down, being born into the lowest, which actually, if you think about it, that's actually what happens. They are born into Ashura life. Ashuram tanam bhavam ashritam. They're born into the lowest life. They're born as Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, likewise Ravana, Kumbhakarna. They are born into this lowest species of life, but they're in that stage, they're always thinking of the Lord anyway, because the Lord has come to save them. That situation comes about because the Lord has come to save them. They're given a special benediction that only the Lord can give here. Because naturally speaking, they've caused some offense. That's true. Here it says the word sad atikramam, to cause the insult to the Kumaras, a great insult. But we understand that the pure devotee doesn't cause an offense. If we read further on in this chapter, there is a beautiful exchange between Lord Vishnu, Padmanabh, and the Kumaras. And it's in the form of what has been described as doublespeak. Doublespeak in this fact that the Lord actually takes the responsibility for the actions of Jay and Vijay. He takes responsibility. But if you read in between the Sanskrit, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says he's actually praising Jay and Vijay because they were serving him. They were serving him without any condition. They were serving the Lord without any idea of what their own sense gratification is. They were completely serving the Lord. Why then must they take this curse? Why must this happen? Because this is all a leela pastime. These are pure devotees. Likewise, the Kumaras, they will become also pure devotees of the Lord. Just by discussing this next part with the Lord, we'll see how much the Kumaras actually get completely bewildered and also get completely enamored by the Lord. So the Lord has come in this last minute, this last calamity, this moment of where it's just about to happen that these devotees are going to be sent down to rest in the material world and perhaps be there forever in the lower species of life. And at that moment, the Lord comes with Shri, the goddess of fortune. Why he comes with the goddess of fortune? Because fortune comes with the Lord. And this fortune is coming for also Jay and Vijay. In this respect, this fortune that they get, it's not spoken here in the Bhagavatam, but the fortune they get is they are able to obtain either three Ashura births, or 3 births as enemy of Lord Vishnu, or 7 births as devotees. And they're in such anxiety, like I said in the beginning, about not being away from the Lord and not being in their constitutional position, not being able to serve, because that's their position in which they feel at home. They say no 7 devotee births, we want 3 Ashura births, and we want to be back quickly as much as possible. And the 3 births they take are in the most abominable species, the Daityas. They cause so much havoc to the lives of devotees. They fight and cause some harm, in quotations, to the Supreme Lord in fighting with him. In one birth, one of them steals the goddess of fortune Sita from Lord Ram, causes so many disturbances to all of the Lord's devotees in Varsh. But nevertheless, they still, after these births, they obtain the Supreme. They have 3 births, but then they have, I wanted to speak about the extra birth that they take. They are given 3 births, but then they come again a 4th time in Kali Yuga, just 500 years ago, just over. They come as Jay and Vijay. And they cause so much disturbance. There were such rogues, bandits. They would rape and pillage, and they would cause such distress to the people of East Bengal. Everyone knew them. They just said Jagai and Madai, and fear would run through the towns. If they would come, people would stand to one side. They wouldn't go near them. They caused so much havoc. But, like, in one sense, upon meeting the Lords, Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya, they obtained the Supreme as well. But it's a difference. So in an Asura birth as Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, they were engaged in this rasa with the Lord of fighting and engaged in some kind of battle spirit. It is a relationship with the Lord, but is not thereof a pure relation. It's not anakulyena, which is a positive or a the word I'm looking for is positive, or some kind of natural relationship between two people in a positive light. It's in a negative light. They're engaged in a relationship which is where they hate Vishnu, where they're engaged in crimes against those who worship Vishnu. So they have 3 births like this, and then they obtain the Supreme, which is Jain Vijay, being doorkeepers. But that one birth in that final pastime with Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Lord Chaitanya, they get prema. So their actual position is even higher than being the doorkeepers in Vaikuntha. They're actually in Sri Mayapur Dham in the Supreme World. And we know that Sri Krishna Chaitanya is not different to Krishna. Vishnu is an expansion, just like candles, the same candle. But Lord Chaitanya is the same as Krishna. It's very difficult to understand. So they even have a higher position. So we can't mistake what they've done here, this so-called insult. We can't mistake it to be an actual insult. It is not. It is part of the pastime. Speak a bit about the Lord and how He comes in the last minute. In my own experience, I can't tell you how many times where some calamitous occasion or some kind of danger is approaching, and I can tell it's coming. But in the last moment, there's something that comes, and you know it's from Krishna. You know he's been there. His hand is in there. This idea of I've been chanting, I've been reading, and the last moment He's been there. Of course, this is sort of a mixed feeling, because I'm of course measuring the Lord's reciprocation with me based off what my sense gratification, what my happiness and distress is, which is a bit of a mixed bhakti emotion. But nonetheless, there is this exchange between the Lord and His devotees. Nonetheless, without thinking about, He doesn't think about this kind of idea, oh, you're a mixed devotee, or you're a surdam sarvabhutanam. He is completely balanced and equal. Sama thinks of everyone the same, but He's just like the Father and the Son. The Father thinks all of the sons, He doesn't have any favorites. But the Son, who actually puts a lot of attention into the Father, takes care of the Father. The Father naturally reveals His secrets and has more of a beautiful relationship. There's no difference between the other sons in terms of what the Father thinks, but still there's some beautiful relationship there. Likewise, for the devotees, where there's some situations which occur in our lives, when we're performing bhakti, which will happen. There will be situations that occur like this. Part of the process of bhakti yoga is getting to the stage, or moving through the stage of anartha nivriti, of facing our inner demons, of facing these obstacles in our devotional service. Anartha, artha meaning worth, value. Anartha, it's not valuable for devotional service, it's not useful. Nivriti, destroy. So in that respect, going through anartha nivriti, one faces these anarthas, and the way we face them a lot of the time is we see them in full force in our exchanges with devotees, in our exchanges with other people who are not devotees as well. We can see these things that occur. Offending another Vaishnav is Hati Mata, is the great elephant in the courtyard of the creeper of bhakti. We're trying so hard to really take care of this bhakti creeper. We're growing it, we're watering it. It's growing up nicely. But if we let an elephant in the garden, you can imagine the creeper, let alone the entire garden itself. It's in smoke, it's in disrepair completely. And offending another Vaishnava or causing some offense is in this respect like that. But if one is honest, if one is really honest in the way in which they practice their devotional service and is consistently trying to, in one sense, measure themselves with the great text, with those devotees presented in the great text, and consistently saying, am I practicing those values? Am I engaged in a bhakti practice which is just being, I don't need to change. I don't need to do anything. I'm completely okay as I am. Or are we really considering ourselves and going, hey, I can do better here. I'm going to really, really go deep in my bhakti practice to try to really weed this root out. I've made some offense to devotee. Let me go and apologize and say, I can fix it this way. Please forgive me. Please don't take any mind. And that way that offense is to one side, because there's this pureness of heart. Naturally, we don't mean to insult anyone. Naturally. We don't mean to insult anyone. But it can come just by its own course. We can say things, or people can feel a certain way. They might not even say it, but it will disturb our practice. And so we should be mindful of these things in which we engage with devotees. But the Lord is always mindful. In this situation, He loves Jay and Vijay. He's engaged so much with them. He loves them. He wants to take care of them. But at the same time, He understands that there's some form of insult that's occurred here. And so there must be some kind of reciprocation with respect to that insult. There must be some kind of consequence that happens that appeases the Kumaras, who, after all, are also His devotees, after the engagement with Lord Vishnu. So the Lord comes in to resolve this situation. Just like when He smiles sweetly with Sri Lakshmi and Jay and Vijay, here He will smile sweetly in the way in which He addresses what has occurred between the doorkeepers and the Kumaras. He will say such beautiful, sweet words about the Kumaras. He will say such words that basically He puts Himself down. He takes responsibility, like a leader does, takes responsibility for the actions of Jay and Vijay. Similarly, where we practice in such a way, as mentioned, where we are honest, we're always trying to go deeper, we're always trying to serve without thinking of ourselves as much as possible, trying so much to serve another devotee, trying to spread this Krishna consciousness movement, serve the Guru Varga. If we are honest in those practices, in those little things that occur naturally through the stages that we will go through, anartha nivriti, Krishna will be there for us. He'll wipe that fear out of us, and He'll also take care of the situations which occur. Doesn't mean it won't be a bit painful. It might be. But the Lord will be there always. So this verse, Prabhupada said, the Lord in Bhagavad Gita said the devotee is never vanquished. Kauntaya pratijani name bhakta pranashati. My devotee is never vanquished, ever, no matter what they do. And a devotee of the Lord is one who's always engaged in a relationship with the Lord. So, going back into the first topic I was mentioning, this fearlessness or this fear that was experienced by Jay and Vijay, that will be soothed by the words of the Lord, by the benediction that's given. It's not normal that this benediction is given. It's very special. But nonetheless, this fear is wiped out from them when they go, we'll be coming back. We'll be coming back to the Supreme Lord after 3 births. We are reading Bhagavatam and we're reading about this pastime. And naturally, by reading this pastime, we will also feel this idea of the Lord will be there for me. The Lord will really be there for me. In this situation, He was here for the Kumaras, and He was especially there for the doorkeepers. So likewise, if I'm really honest, and I know I'm really honest, the Lord will be there for me. So this Srimad Bhagavatam is providing us that opportunity to see these pastimes and go deeper in our bhakti practice as a result, knowing that the Lord will be there for us. In the first canto, there's a verse, Srimad Bhagavatam gives the right knowledge of one's own self, and by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one can get free from material attachment and enter into the kingdom of fearlessness. Parikshit Maharaj also, he got fearlessness from this death by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing these pastimes. So we should always engage with these pastimes. The Lord will always be there for us. I'll take any questions, any criticisms, comments. Prabhu? "56 of them. On the 4 sides of the 4 gates. That's an honest question. I can say I don't know. If the Prabhus or the Vaishnavis here want to give a response to why there's... In one sense, it's service to the Supreme Lord. It's service. They're in a service position where that is their constitutional position. So, anyone? Garner... Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti raises in his Sarata Darshani, he says the Kumaras say this, what is the need for doorkeepers? But he himself doesn't explain why. He's a Tattva Darshana, he hasn't explained in his Sarata Darshani why there's doorkeepers in Vaikuntha. But they're serving the Lord nonetheless. And the Lord enjoys that service. And they continue. These doorkeepers continue to serve. It's not like the Lord has said, no, I don't need doorkeepers, get rid of them. This is Vaikuntha. No, they're there for a purpose. Did you have a second question? Sorry.
I believe Jagai and Mata in Chaitanya Leela promotes Jai and Vijay.
Yes.
Why is it actually not counted as a whole?
Because of what I was mentioning, they also have a constitutional position with the Supreme Lord in Navadvip Dham, and they've come for that purpose. There's a purpose in which that they've come down. They come of their own volition in that regard.
Can we also say that anxiety and fear do exist in Vaikuntha, but it's not really material?
It's not material fear. So when it says Vaikuntha, which means free of anxiety, it means free of material anxiety. But there's anxieties that the residents of especially in Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan, that they experience. But it's a pure expression, and it's actually part of the relationship, and it actually grows that love for Krishna. They exist for a spiritual. They're in their perfect. Like the banyan. This material world is the banyan tree, the reflection of the banyan tree, and so all of the janmadi asya yata, everything that we have comes from the Supreme Lord and comes from the relationships that the Supreme Lord has with His associates. And there it's a supreme form, but here it's been reversed. It's a mirror image, and it's been designated dependent on how we feel about them on sense gratification basis. Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Well, in one sense, their appearance, it coincides also with the appearance of the Lord. And the Lord comes for particular purposes, pursuant as given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Lord comes to perform His Leelas, and these particular pastimes occur at particular moments. It's given, these moments are given. And so likewise, their births coincide with that. You know, we can say, well, they want 3 births. Why are they letting Diti hold them in her belly for how many years? 100 demigod years? Why is she letting that occur? It's part of the. It's similar. Conversely, we also go, well, why did Narada come and make Kamsa kill all the babies, poor babies? Narada came and just made them slaughter to fasten the Lord's pastimes, because the Lord was supposed to come and perform His Leela at that time. There's a heightened emotion about this, because they've been held in the stomach and it's caused such devastation to the universe. And they come for that particular purpose. And again, they come in many yugas later for Lord Ram. It's not in the same manvantar, it's in many manvantars afterwards. So there is that nature of that. Any further? Alright, we have some time. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Tantraj, Srila Prabhupada ki, all of some devotees. Hare Krishna. Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padaya